few people can match the experience of Sachin Wadhawan. This guy has done it all. He's the business technology, he's the director, of technology partnerships for BigCommerce, which is one of our platinum sponsors. But he also led a team of engineers that provided solutions to how many businesses was that? Well, thousands. How about that? Thousands of merchants with the how many? 60,000. All right, not that he's bragging, but 60,000. Someone told me 60,000 businesses with the B2B and B2C business models. He's done everything from startups to post-IPO companies. So please, let's get things going again and welcome Sachin Wadhawan.
Hi, good morning, everyone. We're still in the morning phases. What an exciting time to be talking about B2B e-commerce. So thank you, Karthik and DCKAP, for having us here. We've been talking already this morning about the journey and making the B2B buyer's journey better, simplified, and better experience overall. So before we go into the session, I want to talk about, one point I wanted to make was B2B e-commerce is become a thing now, right? A couple of years ago, when we said e-commerce, we just assumed you're talking about retail and you're talking about B2C. But the fact that we have B2B e-commerce is a term is a testament that it's a real thing, right? And before we go into the session, I want to do a couple of quizzes. And just heads up, anybody that's doing fact checking, please avoid these numbers because there's some conflict in the resources that Karthik had and I have, but it'll be fun because these are all big numbers that convey the right message. So we're talking about B2B commerce. What projection, what revenue do we think, or does anybody want to guess, that B2B e-commerce will be by end of 2020? And I know Karthik already gave up that answer, but still guess, anybody. It's bigger than Karthik's number. 2 trillion? 1.8? This is a little bit more bullish estimate. Sorry, I'm getting used to this. So I just click once and wait a few seconds. There we go. 6.6 trillion by a bullish estimate from Frost and Sullivan for B2B e-commerce to hit by 2020. Now, there was a report that launched just on Monday by Digital Commerce 360 that said in 2018, B2B e-commerce did $1.08 trillion, right? So certainly it's a thing, and it's growing really fast. Now, when you think about this, another quiz question is, what percentage of the B2B buyers, B2B businesses, are doing e-commerce today? So if you look at the whole ecosystem of B2B businesses, manufacturers, distributors, wholesalers, what percentage of these businesses are doing something online today in terms of transacting online or some form of e-commerce? Any guesses? 53%. 53%. All right. Any others? 72%? Close. About 40.6% of B2B businesses have e-commerce today. Right? That's a good number. But at the same time, there's over 50% businesses that don't have any aspect of e-commerce in their business. So let's look at it from a buyer perspective, right? We were talking about from a business perspective. And this answer was also, a lot of you know from Karthik's presentation. But buyers are leveraging online search to learn more about products, right? So what percentage of buyers are doing online search before they pick up the phone and call the sales rep? Any guesses? Everybody has this answer. It is 90% of B2B buyers use online search. But the last quiz question is around, okay, so a lot of B2B buyers are used to picking out their phone, looking on the web, learning about the business, learning about the product before they engage in the buying process. How many of them are using mobile, right? So another question is, what percentage of the revenue that B2B businesses are driving today is influenced or impacted by mobile? Any guesses? 75%? 40? Yeah, so it's over 40% of revenue in leading B2B organizations is impacted or influenced. Again, it's impacted or influenced because it might be that they're using their mobile device to learn about the product. It might be that they found a cheaper product somewhere else while they were learning about the product, right? So they're not buying your product, right? So it's influencing that. And we see that 80% of B2B buyers are using mobile at work. So it is a big topic of B2B e-commerce. I want to distill that down today to just 3 subtopics that we're going to focus on, right? We want to talk about B2B is changing. And I think we all know that, but I'm going to give you some examples, some context from what we are seeing at BigCommerce and why now is the time for B2B distributors and manufacturers to do something now, right, and have an impact. We are going to talk about integration, right? I think integration is going to be a continued theme in terms of how integration and connecting to different systems is very critical for B2B businesses. And then, of course, we'll talk about role of mobile in B2B. This is where I come in. So my name is Sachin Wadhawan. I'm the Director of Technology Partnerships at BigCommerce. And as we mentioned in my introduction, sorry. Oh, perfect. Apparently, it was still working when it was turned off. Magic. So I joined BigCommerce about 3 years ago. And as you can see, I'm very passionate about sales engineering because that's what I was hired to do, was to build sales engineering organization at BigCommerce. And I have my own store where I sell T-shirts that say Trust Your SE and other funny stuff that only sales engineers understand. But not B2B, I'm a B2C retailer that I sell my product. But why that experience was relevant to this conversation is because I was directly or indirectly involved in thousands of conversations and thousands of evaluations, both from B2B and B2C businesses, as they were going through their journey of digital transformation, right? So they were looking at an e-commerce platform to see if this is the right platform for them. So I have insights into kind of what's important from a B2B, B2C standpoint, from a technology standpoint. And I've seen thousands of RFPs and lots of POCs, and I'm able to bring some of that experience and knowledge into this session. As a technology partnership director, I manage 4 portfolios, and of course, B2B is one of them. So I'm also very passionate about B2B and a big evangelist for B2B e-commerce, and have view into kind of partnerships and how that area is growing. So let's get into it. First topic, B2B is changing, right? We all know that. I talked about this report came out on Monday, that B2B e-commerce sales hit 1.08 trillion in 2018. Now, 49.3% of those total B2B sales is still conducted manually, right? And that's why I asked the question to Tom, because we're not necessarily seeing that online sales is cannibalizing your direct sales channel. It's actually net new. It's attracting new buyers. It's attracting new types of engagements that are more suited for online or mobile sales than calling the sales rep and getting that product ordered. And 32.5% is still through EDI. But the B2B buying process is getting digitized, right? We already talked about the search happening online, but 70% of the buying behaviors and buying process is already completed before they even talk to a sales rep, right? This is not just for B2B. In B2C, we live in this world, right? Before we go to the store, we're not stopping to go to the store, but we are learning about what we're buying. We're doing our research. We're reading reviews because we want to be more knowledgeable buyers, right? And the same applies to B2B buyers, where they're trying to distill down 2 to 3 options before they even pick up the phone. And that's actually helping the sales reps because they're not starting from ground zero, right, when that call comes in. Also, the B2B buying is unique. So there's a lot of aspects of B2B that mimic the B2C world, right? And B2B is behind B2C in terms of e-commerce adoption or e-commerce technology adoption. So yes, there are some characteristics that B2B can apply from B2C, but B2B buying is unique, right? There are credit limits that B2B buyers have. There are coding and price list and purchase orders and quick order forms, right? B2B buyers are not going to your store to shop, right? They're not there kind of flipping through catalogs to see, do I want this shirt or this pant? They know exactly what they want, right? So it's not about conversion, right, that drive lots of B2B users to the website and convert them. It's all about making their journey, making that buying process easier, right? So, and there are things like financing, right? We see financing in high AOV B2C items, like when you're buying expensive watches or things like that. Now you're buying Tesla online. But financing is very critical to B2B, right? Enabling, making it easier for your B2B buyers, providing them access to capital, right? Maybe they want to buy a lot of products from you, but they don't have cash flow. So what if in the checkout process you gave them a quick option to be able to apply for capital and actually get approved within 30 seconds for capital? That certainly helps grow your sales, right? And then when you think about what's driving this change, B2B e-commerce actually is good for both buyers and sellers. It's less expensive for sellers. We talked about reducing cost of sales, and it's more convenient for buyers. And a lot of this expectation is already shaped by all of us experiencing B2C, right? Before we started using Amazon and the 2-day shipping, nobody freaked out if the product didn't arrive in front of our doorstep in less than 2 days, right? Now when you order something and it's not there in 2 days, you're like, where is it? I want to track it, and if it's not there next day, we want to track it. When you order your groceries, if it's not there within an hour, you're like, where is our delivery, right? So we are bringing all of that into B2B. And then digitally native B2B professionals, right? This is another, I don't know if, for the distributors here, the new hires that you've had, right? This generation is digitally native professionals, right? They have phones. They show up on their first week of work, and you're teaching them how to use a fax machine, right? Or they're going, what's a spreadsheet, right? So it's the world and the experience that they are bringing in is really important for B2B businesses. And again, it's all about making the buyer job easier is becoming a bigger and bigger strategy. And when you look at the top reasons for why buy online versus offline, so again, offline is direct sales channel. I like this first one. It's more convenient since online sites are open 24 hours a day. Right? Think about our customers. How busy are they running their own business? Right? Do they really think about ordering 9 to 5? Or do they think about ordering on the weekends? Or do they think about buying more inventory at 1 a.m. when they are, after the kids are asleep and they are focusing on what I need to do to grow? Right? So again, it's complementing the sales channel where the online is available 24 hours a day, right? The second one, faster process. We already talked about that. The fact that it's self-service, they can go at their pace, and the web enables that. Save money because they get lower prices online. We see a lot of B2B businesses, they are identifying which of their products are more suited for online sale. It doesn't have to be complex product that requires a lot of configuration. It may be accessories or parts, right, that are easier for that experience. And because they're lowering cost of sale, because to buy those parts that doesn't need a lot of configuration, I don't have to be talking to a sales rep to place that order. If I'm able to buy that, that's cost savings for the business. And in B2C world, you offer buy one, get one free, 10% off here. You can't do that in B2B, right? But you can lower that you can provide incentives to those orders that are being placed through the web, so your cost of sales is lower. And then, of course, there's other information around, buyers getting more information. So this is one, I often hear that the sales organizations in B2B businesses are usually the biggest detractors of going online because there's a sense that it's impacting their job security, when the reality is the opposite of that, because your buyers are now more educated because they're learning about the product, and by the time they call, they're ready to place the order, right? So the ROI is also attainable, right? And there's a really awesome book coming out called $1 Billion B2B E-Commerce that kind of goes a little bit more into the details of that ROI. But the digital ROI models are built around increased revenue, right? We often see that the B2B e-commerce is driving net new And I asked Tom that question as well. It's often driving net new. It's attracting new types of buyers that are not purchasing from you right now. Increasing profit, so the more you can move to online, lower cost of sales, increases profit, and overall it increases the higher enterprise valuations. So why time is now to act? Going back to our quiz question, only 40%. Now it's an only 40% of the B2B businesses are doing something online. That's 50% more of your competitors that are not doing anything. And when you ask them, when do you plan on launching your B2B e-commerce site? A lot of them are at least 6 months away, right? They're in the initial stages of their strategy. So B2B businesses that are adopting B2B e-commerce are now using that as a differentiator with their buyers to grow their revenue, right? So time to act is now. So in summary, actually before we go into that, so in summary, B2B e-commerce is complex, right? There's not just the let's put a shopping cart and things will happen. To Karthik's point, you can't just launch a website. Actually launching the website is where it starts, right? Because there are all these other components that go with B2B e-commerce, like on-site search, payments, ERP integrations, shipping, account management. So it really is a full holistic experience and a lot of technologies that kind of support that. So to summarize the first topic of B2B is changing, we all know how the buyer behavior is changing, and we all know, there you go. We all know how the buyer journey is changing and the expectations are changing. Let's dive a little bit closer into the e-commerce platform that's at the core of this B2B e-commerce transformation. So how the platforms, e-commerce platforms are evolving. So what I want to talk about here is when you look at the historical evolution of the e-commerce platforms. We used to live in this monolithic world, right? Black box. The businesses wanted everything in one box. Accounting, CRM, commerce, shipping, right? And these are the Hybris, Oracle, IBM web sphere of the world, right? Over the last 10 years, the growth of commerce-specific technologies started to evolve, and BigCommerce being one of them, Magento being one of them, Shopify, OroCommerce. These platforms offered core commerce capabilities that businesses needed. We are now leaving this commerce-led era, and we're entering into an experience-led era, right? Where it's not about commerce, is not about a specific thing, it's about B2B buyer experience and journey, and it applies both to B2B and B2C. What in this new world, when you think about, okay, well, commerce tool I can use because anytime they go to shopping experience, I need that technology. But what's the technology for experience, right? There's not a single technology for experience because the experience is across the entire life cycle. Experience is when that buyer is returning a product or calling back in to edit that product or receiving their product. All of that is experience. So there's not one technology. So we're moving into this world where it is multi-platforms, right, that have to connect and talk to each other, right? Has anybody heard of a term, headless commerce? It sounds very Game of Thrones, right? It's like headless, like kill the commerce. But all that means is there's commerce behind the scenes, right? So a good example of this is when you think about how CMS, content and commerce, have been tied together for the longest time. So let me give you an example. When do you learn about the product? If you go to any e-commerce site, right, the best time you learn about that product is when you actually go through the catalog, you search for that product, you end up on the product detail page. Product detail page is where you have product images, specs, pricing, configuration, all of that, right? You're already in the shopping journey before you learn about the product, right? So product, content, and commerce is connected, right? But what happens when you decouple that? What if I learn about the product when I'm reading a blog about this engine, or I'm reading a technical white paper about this engine and this particular part? And in that technical white paper, as it's describing that part, there's a plus button that says add to cart, right? Now, to learn about that product, I didn't have to go through a shopping experience. I went to a content experience, and then I shopped. You see that disconnect, right? What that does, it supports this experience-led, right? Because it's not about commerce-led. It's about let's create the experience. Let's educate our buyers. And then if they are inspired and educated and they want to buy that, they can support that. GE is one of our customers, and they have GE Aviation. And really interesting use case of, you're looking at this very heavy aviation engine, and you can zoom in, zoom out, and as you're looking at that, there's plus signs on all the parts you can buy, right? So as a mechanic, I may not know the SKU count, but I don't want to look at the catalog. I want to look at the engine because I'm looking at the engine in real time, and I can just click on that and add to my cart and complete the order. So that's headless commerce. Actually, Instagram, did people hear about Instagram launching checkout? Awesome example of content, experience-led commerce, right? I am already experiencing the pictures and the products that I'm seeing, other people that I'm following, and now I want to buy it, right? So when you look at the e-commerce technology ecosystem, you have the open source and SaaS. Those are the two kind of extreme ends, right? Open source, so it's OroCommerce and Magentos of the world. There's some truth and perception that open source gives you most flexibility. You have access to the source code. You are running the servers, so you have all the control you need. That may or may not be a good thing. On the SaaS side, the other extreme, there's truth and perception that SaaS tends to limit you and restrict you. And because you are unique and you're complex and your products are complex, SaaS doesn't necessarily meet those requirements. And sometimes, to use a SaaS platform, you have to change your business processes to meet that requirement. BigCommerce really sits in the middle, and we believe in open SaaS. Because I think especially for B2B, the openness is really important, but the benefits of SaaS, where you're not maintaining servers and running your own tech stack, is needed. Because the platforms can support that, right? They can scale as your business grows. So what I mean by open SaaS, let me just give you a quick definition of that. Let's go to the next one. So open SaaS gives you openness in two areas. Top, which is the front end layer, and back, which is the back end, right? The front end is as relevant to B2C as it is to B2B because it is all about customizing the journey. Right? For a lot of B2B businesses, I see the common request is, well, we don't want to show anybody what products we sell or what price we sell it as. So the first thing we want is for that buyer to log in, right? Because I don't want them to see wholesale group A should not see what prices wholesale group B is getting, right? Or there may be different language. There may be product configurations where you want somebody to look through and configure the product before they can add that product to cart. The back end is the integration piece, right? B2B businesses have a lot of systems in place. And you want to make sure that when you start doing your online commerce, those orders are flowing perfectly and seamlessly into the systems where they need to be, right? So the e-commerce platform should have the flexibility to fit in to your existing tech stack. Because guess what? The tech stack's going to change over time, right? These boxes at the bottom are going to get replaced with other technologies. And you don't want to keep repeating your e-commerce platform. You don't want to keep re-platforming, right? That's the goal. What we see is, even though both openness aspects are important, B2C cares and prioritizes more about front end, and B2B cares more about back end. You know why? Because B2C runs by the goal of driving millions of people to the website, and let's just do really good conversion. Let's offer incentives. Let's make it very easy for them to find the product through faceted search. So you drive a lot of people, and then you hope a good percentage of them convert, and you grow your revenue. B2B is different. 15 of my accounts drive 80% of my revenue. I'm not trying to promote this website, on Facebook. I just want to make sure that when those 15 accounts log in, their experience is optimized. They're able to see inventory, they're able to see accounts, they're able to see credit limits. That experience, again, making that buyer journey easier is what's important. But again, openness is critical and it is important. So because of this openness, we are living in this world where as businesses, we want to have the choice of using best of breed, right? So when you look at an ecosystem, we believe in an ecosystem, right? We believe that that's the only way to go in the future. That's the only way to go and survive in the experience-led economy, right? So being able to select which ERP system you want and which PIM system you want and which CMS system you want and CRM system you want is critical already and will continue to be critical. So you want to choose an e-commerce platform that plays well with other systems that are available. Just a very high-level view of BigCommerce, an overview of BigCommerce. We started in 2009. We have 60,000 SMB merchants on our platform. We have 3,500 enterprise businesses, both B2B and B2C. We're the only true SaaS e-commerce platform that supports both B2B and B2C. We are 650 employees, headquartered in Austin, Texas, offices all over the globe, and growing very rapidly. All right, so we talked about B2B is changing, right? And what's driving that change, how the B2B buyer experience is changing, and what B2B businesses need to do now to have an impact on that change. And then we looked at how e-commerce is changing, right? And how the platforms are changing and how they're evolving into an experience-led ecosystem. So let's talk about mobile, because mobile plays a pretty big part in this change as well, right? Because we already talked about 90% of the people, our buyers, are searching, and then a lot of them are searching on their mobile device, right? So I think this stat is outdated, because if I asked you all how many times all of you on average have checked your phone, today it's probably more than 220 times. But it shows you that phone is very close to us, right? We are used to looking at our phone for information, for commerce, for a lot of things, right? And what's unique about mobile is there are some advantages that mobile offers, because I think it's very easy for us to think about e-commerce in general as long as our website is mobile responsive, it's good, and it's the same experience if they're on a mobile device versus if they're on the web. But sometimes that's not true, right? So we already talked about this, that over 40% of revenue in leading B2B organizations is influenced, and 50% of B2B search queries are done on smartphones, which will continue to grow to 70%. So a lot of B2B businesses are taking mobile seriously, and they're identifying what is it about the mobile device that I can use to my advantage, right? So there are mobile apps, there are PWAs, but the goal is put your products in your buyer's pocket, right? That was the quote by Doug Root, CEO of Atlanta Light Bulbs, is we want to put our products as closest to you as we can to make that buyer journey easier and faster, right? And there are many other solutions like that that are growing. Because when you think about what's unique about mobile is there are payments, right? We trust our phone to our credit cards. And now Apple Pay just launched their own credit card, which is even on top of that. But we store, I don't know how many of you have digital wallets enabled. Come on, there. So mobile wallets are gaining traction, and this is very B2C today, right? I think we all know that when we don't have credit card and more payment methods, more unique payment methods come up, it will translate over time into B2B in terms of Apple Pay and Amazon Pay and all that. But capital financing is certainly applicable to B2B, right? You have B2B buyers that are making large purchases. So offering them options for financing, capital, and those type of things, it will continue to become more prominent. And again, that's an advantage that mobile offers that you can't do as easily on the web. And then the last thing is on voice, right? So how many here have a Alexa or some sort of a voice-enabled device at home? Okay. I think there were some stats that 13% of homes now have a smart speaker, 36% of those homes regularly use the device to make purchases, and 62% of smart speaker owners have made at least one purchase, right? Again, innovation starting on the B2C side, but it will make its way into B2B. You know, one common scenario that I see where this is relevant is reordering, right? What voice is doing, it's automating the non-decision-making commerce purchase, right? Where if you could just, and you know, you just think about, I'm a restaurant owner and I'm, you know, running around crazy all day, and you know, I just want to place the same number of plates and the same number of spices or whatever I ordered last time, you know, because our business is kind of continuing humming, right? I don't need to log into a computer and go to the store and look at my past orders and reorder if I can just say, just reorder what I just ordered, right? So voice has some advantages that you don't have with the web, and it's very relevant to B2B. And then certainly hands-free element of it, right? Even though we have phone in our pocket, there might be situations where it is easier for you to just be sitting across the room and just be able to order it. You know, I have a 2-year-old who can play Amazon Storytime. She can't type, but she can speak, you know, so she's using Alexa really, really effectively. So again, voice commerce is you know, a starting trend right now. It's gaining traction in B2C, but we'll certainly see more applications of that in the B2B world. So in summary, again, we talked about B2B is changing and why time is to act now. We looked at why integration, especially when you're looking at how to grow you know, online and how to digitally transform online, e-commerce has to be able to be flexible to integrate with other systems in place. That's very critical, right? And then, of course, as you go online, mobile starts to play a bigger part in it. And what are you doing to take advantage of the unique capabilities that mobile offers that web doesn't offer? So with that, I think that's my last slide. We'll love to take any questions.
Kartik mentioned in his opening presentation about our expertise is our people and so on, that Amazon can't compete. And everything you guys are showing, you're seeing all this online self-service, but where is the connection between our people and the e-commerce system here? I have not seen chat or any other kind of functionality that brings our people into this e-commerce environment.
Yeah, the great question. What I would say is certainly that expertise is unique to your business. You know, there is adoption of chat in B2B side that we're seeing, but not as much because there is a good sales structure, direct channel already, right? I think Tom talked about sometimes e-commerce can be just a lead gen tool to attract new buyers. But you know, if the e-commerce buying journey requires a lot of complex configuration, you might not be making the process easier for the buyer. You may be making it more complex for them. So I think, and honestly, that's why I believe that, you know, we talk about how if you're not selling on Amazon, somebody else is. And Amazon is moving into B2B. But I think the reason they can't move all the way into B2B is because they don't have that product expertise, right? And I think that's why every B2B business is thinking about what are the select products, who's our audience, which accounts are buying what, that we can drive them and make their experience better in an online fashion versus continuing to use the direct sales channel. Did that answer your question? And I think the product expertise really comes more into either post-buying, post-sale process, or if they have questions, right? I may just go to the website. I mean, we have examples of B2B businesses where the add to cart button is replaced with contact now or get called by someone, right? So you are starting the buying journey for that buyer to educate them to some extent, where they can view videos, they can read specs, and they can compare different products. But when they're ready to transact, and maybe they have further questions, you can drive them to that experience. I think chatbots are gaining traction in B2C, and there are a lot of these digital assistants that are coming on board where you don't really know if you're talking to a person or not. And when I've run into that, I just keep typing agent, 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 and then somebody comes up. But in B2B experience, that to me that doesn't translate, because it is a lot about relationship, right? Because I'm purchasing products over and over again. So I think chatbots may actually discourage a B2B buyer that you are trying to offload the relationship, and that's not the goal for B2B e-commerce. Yes.
Artificial intelligence is going to come in to make suggestions for those B2B clients based upon product history.
We are starting to see, and I'm not the AI expert, but we are starting to see AI play a bigger part, especially when it comes to search, and what products are surfaced when I'm browsing through the web based on my product history. But yes, I would imagine that anything, again, for me, AI is just enabling intelligence into the buying behavior, right? So instead of me clicking on 5 links to get to the result, if I can click on 2 links and get to the result, that's a better experience for me. So if AI can help enhance that buyer journey, then better. And we are starting to see more and more use cases around search and some of those things for AI.
Other questions for Sachin? All right. Yeah, I guess you covered it all.
That's right.
You were perfect.